It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Threw your arms in the air and said you're crazy. 5 days since you tackled me. I still got the red burns on both my knees. It's been 3 days since the afternoon. You realize
Welcome back. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios. Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Charlie using over there, other side of the glass. We're going to get to our guy, J.R. Radcliffe. That's right, J.R. Radcliffe of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. We'll get his thoughts on the Milwaukee Brewers and all the different decisions that came down yesterday. We talked about the William Contreras decision there in the 2:20 segment. So we'll get more into that with him coming up in the next segment at 3:20. Charlie Sounds of the Day comes up at 3:40. But I want to talk about this UFC being under investigation for allegedly throwing fights. How concerned are you about the integrity of professional sports? Now, this is the thing. So Dana White has said, hey, I'm cooperating. I'm an open book. Come do what you got to do, man. I ain't trying to go to jail. Whatever. Come do what you got to do. Okay. But you've got stories out there with fighters saying that, hey, man, I was asked to throw a fight. Got all this stuff going on. So, again, we don't know how much of it is true. There's going to be a full investigation like everything else. Who knows if the UFC now goes away, if they're found to be the WWE or what? At least the WWE just says, hey, y'all, these are all scripted. If y'all want to bet on it, that's on you. But this is it. There were a ton of things going on social media last night, right? Like the whole Spider-Man meme looking at each other. Hey, UFC, it's Spider-Man looking at Spider-Man and the UFC and WWE. Very funny. But either way, so this was thought to be legitimate. It's a thing, right? It's just like boxing, whatever. Fine. And the younger people are all into it, right? You got the 16s, the 17, the 18s, and the 20s, the 30s, all into it. So it's grabbing that younger fan base that everybody wants to get a hold of. So it's going great. And now this. On top of, you have the NBA scandal going on. On top of, you have college basketball players. See the last Badger that was just released from the basketball program, because he's under investigation from his previous program of college basketball. So you got all those college basketball players involved. So now you got college basketball, the NBA, UFC, all involved in this thing. That leaves the National Football League, National Hockey League, Major League Baseball. Oh, hold on, Major League Baseball. We had a translator who got in trouble for betting on games and everything else for Ohtani.
Well, and they have the oldest history of people betting on the sport, too.
Not for Ohtani, but he was the translator for Ohtani. Not that he was making bets for Ohtani.
Before sport books and all that.
Okay, so my question to you is this. How concerned are you about the integrity of professional sports and what you're watching? My mother is convinced none of it's real. None of it. She don't think any of it's on the up and up. She don't think anything is right. She don't believe any of that. It's like, oh, you're crazy, Mom. Oh, you're nuts. You're just mad. Whatever. No, you're crazy. But man, one after another in short order here. And then what happens? Have you watched the Bucks the last couple of nights? Have you been watching what's going on with Giannis and the lack of foul calls and everything else? There have been 38 free throw attempts, I want to say, in the last two games. That didn't happen at any point last year between two opponents facing the Bucks in back-to-back games. Nathan Marzian, I believe, put that up on social media last night or today. So you've got that going on. You got Doc Rivers is mad. Giannis is mad. All this other stuff is going on. You hear Doug Gottlieb this morning, Green Bay Phoenix head coach. He's on with Trevor Thomas and Josh Albrecht doing Inside Wisconsin Sports. That was amazing, by the way. Amazing. Dude, I could listen to him talk all day, every day. I don't care what his basketball record is or whatever. He's just a fascinating dude. So they're talking to him about Giannis and everything else. And this dude's telling a story about what just happened in their first game against Kansas. Right? He's talking about how the center for Kansas, talented dude, whatever else, kept putting his hands when he can match up against a guard or whatever, and kind of like slowing down the guard going around him. And they weren't calling it. That's hand checking. You can't allow that to occur. So Gottlieb essentially tells the story that he goes up to the referee before halftime and says, hey, man, can you just check this? When you go in there to watch film, just look and see about him putting hands on him, because it would help us in the second half if he wasn't allowed a hand check. And the dude pretty much looks at him and says, dude, shut up. Coach your team better. And walks away from him. He go back and listen to the interview with Gottlieb. I'm telling you, that's what was said. And I was dying. I was like, that is like, I would become unhinged if a referee said that to me. Right? Like, who are you? Do your job better, and I wouldn't have to ask you to watch this dude for hand checking. And it shouldn't matter if he's getting blown up by 20, 40, or 60. You're a referee. Do your damn job. Don't have the arrogance like that. I would not get along with referees. I'm convinced of it after hearing some of the stories.
I'm glad you don't coach any youth teams right now.
No, but just think about that for a second, right? So if a referee is involved, Tim Donaghy, NBA, he doesn't have to call anything he don't want to call. Or he can overblow the whistle. Throw a flag on holding all the time in the National Football League if you want on the offensive line. Micah Parsons, we've talked about that. That man gets held on damn near every play, just like he did in Dallas. Do they call it? Well, no. Because if I threw a flag every time Micah Parsons got a flag thrown on him, we'd be throwing flags every play, which is the same reason they give Doc as why they won't blow the whistle on every time somebody hits Giannis. Well, we'd be blowing the whistle all the time. Well, if you do your job, maybe they'll stop. But guess what happens if they stop? He's going to throw up 100 on somebody if they just let these guys not touch Giannis like they're supposed to. So all of that, if you think about it, none of that should be happening. None of what we just talked about. None of this stuff with refereeing should be happening at any point. And that doesn't even have to do with a player missing a shot or a player faking an injury or a field goal kicker yanking a shot or whatever the case may be. How concerned are you about the integrity of professional sports? Nicolay Law talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Socials, WI Sports Radio. Follow us on X. Follow us on YouTube as we live stream Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. How concerned are you, Charlie Usen?
I wouldn't say I'm as concerned as your mom. I don't think I'm in the boat of every sport is rigged, everything is wrong, everybody's doing everything for ulterior motives. I'm not to that point. But when it comes to the UFC and fighters saying that they're getting offered money to throw fights, fix fights, whatever, that doesn't surprise me all that much. And Dana White offering to be there and be compliant with the search and investigation here, I guess, doesn't also say to me that he's completely innocent in this situation. I think a lot of this all is saying to me that, yeah, people are being asked to throw fights. I'm sure there's NFL players on a daily that have people DMing them that probably have a lot of money on Instagram, Twitter, saying, hey, you know, if you drop a couple balls this week, we can all make a little bit of money. We can figure this out. Doesn't mean Roger Goodell's involved, but it also doesn't mean that Roger Goodell doesn't know about it. I think you could probably say the same thing about this UFC situation.
Can I just throw something out there real quick? So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I am knowledgeable on what I'm about to talk about, because I'm not, because I've never done this in my life before. But I know people that have or whatever. Man, back in the day, 70s, 80s, 60s, whatever. How did people gamble on games? Right? There was no internet. Nothing like that. 60s, 70s, 80s, right? So how did people gamble?
Guy going to a bookie, right?
Go on bookie.
Yeah.
Call up your bookie. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, what do you got for the spread for tonight's game? Hey, man. All right, man, I'll do a 3-team parlay, blah, 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 blah. Boom. And then you got to pay the bookie or however y'all go about it. And that's how it was. But there wasn't any, hey, man, I want the over-under on Bart Starr throwing 2 touchdowns in the game. That wasn't a thing with bookies. And again, you all bet with bookies back in the day. You can, I'm not going to tell anybody who you are, but you can call and tell me, or use the talk and text line. Don't have to be identified that way, and tell me whether or not that was going on. I have no idea. Because if we're just talking about games, in my mind, that's a little bit easier to control. When you start talking about individuals, UFC is an individual sport, right? Tennis, individual sport, where it's one-on-one. To me, that's a little bit easier to make sure it goes the way that you want it to go. Same with individual player stats and daily fantasy or whatever. That's a little bit easier depending on which way you want something to go. Where prior to all of this, and it was just on a match or just on a game, you needed everybody to get down with it. I mean, Shoeless Joe Jackson got in all that trouble, isn't in the Hall of Fame, and go back and look at what his numbers were in that series. Over 300. He had a great series. Doesn't matter. Gone. See ya. Bye-bye. That's the type of stuff that I find interesting. And that's the type of thing that if this UFC thing comes to be true, and we don't know, they're all allegations, but if that ends up being true, that scars that forever. Nobody will ever trust that again. That's over. Now you're just talking about a couple more, right? NFL, Major League Baseball, and then how long before the government steps in? Because they always tend to step in whenever they think something needs to be fixed before they step in and they put an end to something. Let's go to KJ, West Allis. You're next on the Nicolay Law Talking Text Line. What's up, KJ?
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call, Sparky.
Sure.
Hey, you can't really be, well, you can. I'm mad at the umpires and referees, but you got to go to the source, right? And the source is not the umpires or referees. It's the league. It's the way that they've established everything and the structure of gambling right now. I mean, it's so easy to gamble on, prop bets or whatever the case might be. Yeah. My wife, she doesn't watch sports. I mean, she doesn't know a touchdown from a home run, but she'll look at and she'll browse at games that I'm watching, and she'll say that should not happen. That everything's fixed. I mean, she's like your mom,
right?
She believes that all that stuff is bogus, and I'm tending to believe a lot of that. I'm not saying it all is, but I see stuff now that is so blaringly, out of the norm, if you will, about the way that they officiate games, that something's got to be going on.
See, it's interesting.
Right.
It's interesting, KJ. Thanks for the call, because you start talking about officiating games. You're talking about all sports. This isn't a sport. This is all sports. And then you hear stories from like Doug Gottlieb about the arrogance of how these guys treat coaches and so forth. Then you even get more concerned about what is going on, because then they feel like they're the judge and jury. Screw you. I'm going to do what I want. And that is scary stuff. The other part of what's going on now more than ever, I think, is everybody questions everything. Nobody believes anything. Everybody has their own conspiracy theories on everything in life, no matter what is said to them. Nope, I don't believe that. I think it's this way. Yeah, but the facts are that I don't believe that. I think it's this way, right? That's more now than ever, Charlie. So now when people are watching these games, and now you have all of these scales going on in sports, I'm telling you, I think eventually it could catch up to sports. All of them.
It could. I can 100% see that happening across not just professional sports, but just kind of entertainment in general. A lot of people coming up with these conspiracy theories, like you're saying, that we're seeing already just kind of out there in society. Sports and entertainment are so trivial already to a lot of people in life that having these conspiracy theories leak into there doesn't matter that much to them. But in reality, part of what makes sports and entertainment and all of that so awesome for people to want to go to and enjoy and get away from their regular lives is the fact that you don't have to worry about regular life slipping into that. And right now you're starting to see that, and that's really dangerous and really scary.
Great point. UFC under investigation for allegedly throwing fights. How concerned are you about the integrity of professional sports right now? Nicolay Law Talking Text Line 414-677-1250. On the socials at WI Sports Radio, got one here from Jake and Dousman on the 262. He says, tinfoil hat theory. Are the refs instructed to not call fouls on Giannis in order to drive him out of the city? Makes you think. I don't know what to believe anymore, Jake and Dousman. No, I don't think that's. No. I don't. Now, here again, this is going to be a situation where you can believe your theory, I'll believe my theory, and we'll disagree, and we will both will not know if we're right or not. But I don't think anybody in league offices are trying to make sure the Bucks don't win enough so Giannis will want to be traded to go somewhere else. Like, I don't think that's true. I don't think there's any chance of that necessarily happening at the end of the day. But when you straight up tell the head coach of a basketball team, Yeah, he's getting fouled all the time, but I'm not calling that every time. We've been blowing a whistle every time he gets the ball. So that's not happening. When you say that to a head coach, you're pretty much telling the head coach, I know what the rules are, and I'm not going to follow them as a referee. That's pretty much what you're saying. When you tell Doug Gottlieb to shut up and coach your team better when he questions something happening, that's you saying, I don't care if your guys are getting fouled or not. I'm not going to call it because your team's not any good. So I'm going to let him play because I want to get out of here. I mean, that's the type of stuff that leads to big questions going on about referees regardless. James, south side of Milwaukee, you're next on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. What's up, James?
Well, I think yeah, I'll go you better yet. I think sometimes when Giannis and the rest of these guys sometimes they sit on out that they're changing the game type of thing or faking an injury. You know, sometimes
you're talking about load. James, you're talking about load management.
Yeah, I think that they're sometimes that they're changing this thing, and it's been probably going on the last several years. That to change the games and stuff like that in basketball especially. And I think maybe it's going to blow on up one of these days that you can not just the fouls but the injuries and all this other stuff that they're doing to make to the extent who wants to go to a basketball game and you want to see Giannis, and you're seeing a B team instead of a varsity team.
I mean, the last time the Bucks played the Warriors, there was no Giannis. Everybody thought they were going to lose, and they still beat the Warriors. James, thanks for the call. I agree with you, though. Like, it definitely affects fans buying tickets. I mean, if they buy tickets. And, again, we talked about this last week, 2 weeks ago, and we were talking to people around the state of Wisconsin like we are right now. And I'm getting stories of it. We drove down from Green Bay, and then Giannis didn't play. Half the team didn't play in April. And we watched a bunch of backups play and wasted all of our money. Yeah, that's going to happen. And guess what? You just lost a fan because of it, and they're out now. I mean, that's the stuff that you battle when you allow these, games to where guys can sit regardless of what's going on. Lewis, north side of Milwaukee, you're next on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. How concerned are you about the integrity of professional sports, Lewis?
I'm very concerned, and we got nobody to blame but ourselves, Sparky. I'll tell you why. When sports talk and sports in general, when they blur the lines between professional sports, between all that, I knew when you guys started talking professional wrestling, when ESPN started talking professional wrestling, what is sports now? We don't know. You guys just throw everything out there. You know what I'm saying? So, is it all fake? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But when you guys,
well, at least with wrestling, they tell you that it's predetermined results. At least you have that.
Look, Spark, look, they're on ESPN. There'll be a wrestler on First.
Sure.
They're discussing this stuff on Sports Center.
Yes, they are.
They're discussing a soap opera, a made up activity on Sports
because
Center.
they want people to watch them, and that's one way to gain more viewers.
But hold on, it's not sports.
Well, it's sports entertainment technically, but yes, you're right. It's not sports. No, you're right.
Sports. You guys talk professional wrestling.
I try not to on this show. Thank you very much. Others may talk about it.
It's still sport. You've been involved with it, buddy, and it's not sports.
Fine.
So we got that. You know what I'm saying? So you can't go into Potawatomi and place a bet on John Cena.
No, but you know what? Potawatomi was showing SummerSlam. They had it on. They had a bunch of people there watching SummerSlam.
But it's all what I'm saying is when you blur the reality, which is fake, which is real. The average, like the guy was talking about his mom. My mom don't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So when they're looking for the average consumer, and just like you gave that example, you guys all driving down, nobody played for the Bucks. Guess what? I guarantee you, bets got placed at Potawatomi on the Bucks. No matter who plays, the bets are going to get placed, and that's what sports going to. It's all. I mean, I can look up if I look up a schedule for who's playing in the NBA tomorrow. The betting line is going to be on there, on ESPN,
correct.
On Fox
everywhere.
Sports, on all of that.
Correct.
So, you guys, like I said, we've married these two. And to answer your question, about gambling back in the day, no, it wasn't, is he going to get one hit? Is he going to strike out 5 batters? It was just going to be, are the Brewers going to beat the Twins? That's it. It wasn't by one run. It wasn't by nothing. Like you said, you talk to the local guy at Miller Brewery or Pabst, or
Yep.
you down at the local pub, and you got a slip and you fill it out, and I paid my $1 or $2. I made my bets, but it wasn't this individual stuff.
Correct.
Once we got into that,
It changes.
like,
no, I get you. I got other people I got to get to, Lewis. I appreciate the call, though. The wrestling point is fair. I don't have a huge problem with that, where they blur the lines and they act like it's real and so forth, even though obviously I think we all realize it's just entertainment, it's pre-scripted, but they're putting that stuff onto mainstream sports content now. While everybody is talking about that too. All right, we got a bunch of people on. We'll get you guys coming up. We moved our guy J.R. Radcliffe back to 340, which then means I moved Charlie Sounds today to 420. Are you following along, Charlie? Using
I got a lot of markings on my sheet over here.
You got a lot of markings on your sheet over there. Yeah, that's good. That's what I like to hear. Hey, don't forget, in case you missed our conversation, it's that time of year, the sing-songy family gathering baked goodsy season. And Wendy's went and made the frosty of your holiday dreams. That's hard to say. It's a snickerdoodle cookie frosty fusion made with swirls of sweet, gooey snickerdoodle sauce and chunks of cinnamony snickerdoodle cookies. It's full-on cookie nostalgia. So preheat those mouth ovens because the snickerdoodle cookie frosty fusion is here. And it's seriously delicious. The iconic frosty mixed with sweet snickerdoodle cookies. It's got to be Wendy's. Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Welcome back, Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Sparky here, Charlie using other side of the glass. Still to come, J.R. Radcliffe, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel will join us coming up here in about 10 minutes or so. Squeeze a couple more calls in on this. UFC now under investigation for allegedly fixing fights. Feds are now involved in investigation. Dana White's like, hey, you can look at whatever you want to look at, do what you got to do. I'll get out of your way. But this comes on the heel of college basketball having issues, NBA basketball having issues. How concerned are you about the integrity of professional sports? Nicolay Law Talk and text line 414-677-1250. Socials at WI Sports Radio. Paul in Menominee Falls, you're next on the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. What's up, Paul?
Well, I actually think that gambling has affected the integrity of sports for years, but now it's definitely on a new level, and that has to do with obviously the online betting that is here. And to answer what you were saying before, you said before online betting there were no prop bets per se.
Outside of maybe the Super Bowl, right? Or was there more than the Super Bowl?
Correct. It was just the Super Bowl.
Right.
Yeah, but back in the 90s, I mean, I went through a bookie all the time, and in there, I don't think there was ever a prop bet offered,
Right.
So, and my buddy used to go out there for the Super Bowl every year, and he would make my prop bets. So that's why I know that was only Super Bowl that Vegas would lay odds on the prop bets,
Yep.
But right now, I mean, it even. To me, right now, I literally, when I go set my DraftKings lineups or my fantasy lineups,
or in this case, you're on a Prize Picks show. I do Prize Picks, so we'll say Prize Picks. But go ahead.
Okay, Prize Picks. When I'm setting my lineups, I'm looking at my fantasy team. Will say I'm looking at odds and going, you know what? Vegas is so good, and hey, this player, his odds are to score 0.5 touchdown. Who's to say that Jordan Love's not going to make sure he gets a touchdown and they're splitting the money? I'm taking them,
Yeah, but I mean, seriously though, you start thinking about it from that perspective. Now, again, if this was, say, the 60s, where some of these dudes were working second jobs on top of playing football, let's say, that really does become a thing if this type of thing was going on back then. But now these guys are making so much money, and even the guys that made a ton, Chauncey Billups made a ton of money, and he's under all these allegations in the NBA after his career is done. That dude doesn't need money.
That is mind-boggling. That just blows my mind.
Absolutely crazy, Paul. Thanks for the call. Enjoy the rest of your day. Let's get to Sherman in Racine. You're next on the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. What's up, Sherman?
Hey, Spark, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Okay. Yeah, and I think you guys have covered everything on the gambling. My biggest fear is somebody's going to get hurt. See, somebody's going to go bet money they don't have to lose on a prop bet, and then they're going to go looking for a player, coach, or somebody from an organization. And somebody's going to get hurt, man. You mark my words. I hope I'm wrong.
I could see it happening. I get down with that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, you know. But listen. Let me ask another question about the Bucks and Giannis last night. How much of a fine do you think Peter Sagan, John Horst, and the Bucks owners would pay in order to make the point to the NBA that the Bucks are tired of this by pulling the team off the court and forfeiting the game?
No, they would never do that. They'll pay Doc Rivers fines to scream and yell about the refs and get fined. They'll pay Giannis fines for him to yell and scream about the NBA to get fined. But I don't think they would ever try and pull their team off of the court. I mean, we've done that once already in Bucks history. I don't think they're going to do it again.
Okay, well, last night, Giannis was about 5 seconds from snatching that little ref and throwing him up into
he was heated. Yes, he was. He was very heated.
Now,
yes, he was.
Now, if Giannis does that, if he loses it, he's going to be out for 40, 50 games.
Yeah, for a
And
long
that's going
time.
to cost
Yeah.
the team a whole lot more
Yep.
than ponying up $1 million or $2 million and just forfeiting the game to make a point.
I would think, Sherman, but this is the thing, right? So, okay, so you pull your team off the floor on a TNT game where you're supposed to be facing whoever the other team is. Say it's Houston and Kevin Durant.
Okay.
You pull your team off. So now TNT has no game to broadcast. They're scrambling, and now they've got to figure out what they're going to talk about, or ESPN, because TNT's out. Or ESPN, right? So now they've got to but hold on now. You say good, but fine. So you also have all the people that are in the stadium that paid for their tickets. You got the concession stand workers that are getting paid. It's going to be more than $1 million or $2 million that they're going to find the NBA team for screwing that all up. I promise you.
You know what? I believe it. But my point is, we're 8 games into the season.
Sure.
The NBA obviously has no control over the referees and what priorities and just calling a fair game. Giannis, he can't go through this for 77 more games, man.
I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can or not. I would hope at some point this changes. We'll wait and find out. Thanks for the call. We'll wait and find out. Last year, I believe Giannis was the only guy that averaged over 10 free throws a game. I believe he was the only one. Right now, I think there are 15 guys that are averaging 15 to 20 guys. So they're calling more fouls this year, and more guys are getting to the line. It just hasn't translated to Giannis necessarily. Coming up next, we're going to talk with J.R. Radcliffe of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. He does the Brewers podcast throughout the season with Todd Rosiak and Kurt Hogue. He's also the training sports reporter over there. Great article today on Jefferson Cuero, the catcher for the Brewers, who's going to be the guy that replaces William Contreras when they move on from William Contreras. And he's playing in the Venezuelan Winter League, and he is on fire, I tell you. So we'll talk to him about that, and we'll talk to him about all these roster decisions that they've decided to make. Rhys Hoskins, Quintana, this Contreras, going back to arbitration with him. Lots to discuss. All ahead on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. And don't forget, Potawatomi is giving away over $300,000 in prizes. It's autumn action, baby. Yep, you heard that right. Over $300,000 in prizes, courtesy of our friends over at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel. Autumn action runs through the November 20th. You can earn entries playing with your rewards card. Prize drawings happen on Thursdays between 5 and 8 p.m. If you win, you get to pick your prize from the prize board. All leftover prizes go into a rollover jackpot drawing. For more info, go online at Potawatomi.com. Must be 21 years of age or older and a rewards member to play. Welcome in. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily. Served up by Wendy. Sparky with you. Charlie Houston producing today's show. Don't forget, Wisconsin Sports Wrap-Up comes up at 5 o'clock with Tommy Wirtz. Joining us now on the guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law, the one, the only, J.R. Radcliffe, sports trending reporter for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, plus does their podcast, Brewers Baseball, throughout the season with Todd Rosiak and Kurt Hogue. J.R., thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Anytime, man.
Okay, so first things first, there was a piece today in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel before we talk about yesterday's roster moves, and that is Jefferson Cuero doing things right now in the Venezuelan Winter League.
Yeah, I think it's easy with the Jesus Mate and the Luis Pena talk that we had all last year to kind of forget that he's the top prospect in the organization coming into the year.
Right.
I don't know, maybe Mate was already at the beginning of last season, but like he's really highly regarded. And if it weren't for this shoulder injury that he suffered that cost him an entire season in 2024, he would still be highly regarded. I think he bounced back really well. It's going to take a while for his throwing arm to get back to the point where it was, truly, truly elite. But he's still a very good defensive catcher. And the man can hit. He's got 4 homers and 41 at-bats down in that Venezuelan league. That's some pretty good competition. It's only 8 teams in that league, but there's some pretty good hitters, pretty good pitchers there. That's not nothing for him to tear it up. And he's been with the big league team. He obviously hasn't debuted yet, but he was with the taxi squad at the end of the year. He was around in the playoffs. His feet are wet. He's ready to be the guy, at least I would think, as the backup catcher in 2026. I think the only reason that wouldn't happen is if they just want to get him more at bats, more reps, because this year was a little abbreviated coming off of shoulder surgery. But he's a pretty special talent. He's going to be a big deal next year.
The other part about this is with Cuero, he's got to stay healthy. I mean, everybody gets on Garrett Mitchell for he can't stay healthy at the major league level, but Jefferson Cuero hasn't been able to stay healthy in the minor leagues either.
Well, it was really just this one catastrophic injury, which is a big deal and is something that is going to linger. Like I said, I mean, it really took him out for a year plus. So that's not something to sneeze at. And yes, he had a couple little things, but nothing significant yet. I don't think it's Garrett Mitchell level where you have to just say to yourself, that's just part of his story. He's just a guy who's going to be hurt. He plays a demanding position. He's going to be backing up a guy who doesn't like to take days off. If it goes the way I think it does. So I don't know how much he's even going to play right out of the gate at the big league level, but I wouldn't be afraid yet that there's an injury question hovering over him at all times, at least not yet.
So everybody talks about Freddie Peralta possibly getting dealt in the offseason. He has 1 year left. But we have this William Contreras situation, which is also intriguing because they had the club option. They said, no, we're good. We want to pay him less than $12 million a year. I read the number to be somewhere maybe closer to $11.1 million. It might be in arbitration. That's a gigantic number, $900,000 difference. But is it worth going through this whole process to probably irritate him and get him in the wrong mindset like we've seen before with Hader and Burns, knowing he still has 2 years left on his deal?
I think you're asking exactly the right questions, because let's say he gets 11 or like 11-1, 11-2. It's not going to sound to the average fan like $800,000 is that big of a deal.
Correct.
And in the arbitration process, we've confronted this before. It's a pretty big deal, but it's also William Contreras. Why would you opt out of a contract just because there's a chance you're going to save that amount of money in arbitration? And who knows with arbitration, it could be more, it could be less savings than that. It could be more too. I think the Brewers are reading the room rightly that he probably won't make $12 million in arbitration, and it will be a significant savings. I think you're going to have to confront pretty quickly the way they operate, the way they've operated with Devin Williams and with Corbin Burns, not with Willie Adames, but with other players before him, is they don't let players get to that last year before they walk as free agents. Will they trade him next offseason? I mean, it sure seems like that would be their MO. And then you throw in the fact that they've never really been too concerned with the optics. Look at the Corbin Burns situation as, exhibit A. They don't really care. If it looks bad for them in arbitration, they are just going to do what they do and operate the way they do on their budget. I personally, I wouldn't do that. $12 million for William Contreras is not, you're not getting robbed there. I mean, he maybe wasn't as good this past year, so you would be hoping he bounces back, a little bit of a risk, but I would just renew the contract, or like accept the option. But not how the Brewers operate. It certainly doesn't sound like, oh, we're definitely going to bring him back, as a free agent to a multi-year deal. It certainly doesn't sound like that.
So this is the thing, right? So my original thought would be Cuero is going to play every day at AAA. And then if there is a long-term injury for Contreras, then he comes up and he starts over whoever the veteran backup is behind him. However, as I sit here and I listen to you talk, I think I'm changing my take, because I think my take now becomes, let him be the backup catcher. Let him catch one day a week or whatever it is. And the reason you do that is to make him familiar with the pitching staff, to make sure that he knows how to catch everybody. He knows everybody's tendencies, and you're essentially getting him ready kind of for the next year, or maybe if things don't go right in the first half, possibly for after the deadline, if you have an opportunity to move Contreras early.
That's how I look at it too. Now I think it's justifiable to send him to AAA for the at-bats part of it, and he's going to be more defense than offense. He should be really good on offense, but his defense really should be really quite extraordinary. So he does kind of know this pitching staff already. He's worked with Mizrowski.
Right.
He's worked with Logan Henderson. The guys that are going to be the big, outside of Freddie Peralta, if he comes back, the guys who are going to be the big contributors he's worked with. So I don't know if it's too big a concern to get him up to speed with the staff, although there would certainly be some of that. I think he's going to be here just because he's the best option. I've read that maybe the Brewers are interested in going with a backup catcher as one of the things that they pursue in free agency. Man, I just wouldn't do that. I don't know why they would spend their money and their resources on something for a very, very short-term fix when you have Jefferson Caro sitting there.
Yep.
But I don't know. Maybe they do, plug in a veteran and then let Caro get every last ounce of preparation at AAA that he can get. He did again have an abbreviated season this last year. But that, to me, that would be silly. They got a major league catcher ready to go. And if he's a backup primarily, that's fine. Let William Contreras DH a little bit more than he has this past year and find a way to get that guy in the lineup.
J.R. Radcliffe joining us, during sports reporter for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, also hosts their podcast throughout the Brewers season with Todd Rosiak and Kurt Hogue. Here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Follow him on Twitter at J.R. Radcliffe. Let's talk about first base. I think everybody sitting here right now wasn't surprised that they decided to move on from Rhys Hoskins yesterday. No shocker there. Does this now essentially guarantee Jake Bauers that other first base spot with Andrew Vaughn?
I definitely think Jake Bauers will be back. Yes. Andrew Vaughn, I think, is actually the bigger question of the two. Although
really?
I would expect him back. I would expect him back for sure. He's gonna make like $7 to $8 million in arbitration, and that's not insignificant. That's a top 5 salary on last year's team. So for a guy who's he'll be in the weaker side of the platoon. It's not going to be a straight platoon. He'll play as much as or more than Bauers, but it comes down to what they think they saw. If what they saw in the second half of 2025 is real, that's the first time Andrew Vaughn has hit like that. Is that a guy that you can be sure is going to replicate that to some degree? He doesn't have to get better. Like if he's that good, then that's great. He's worth $7 to $8 million. If he's the player that he was in Chicago, he's definitely not worth $7 to $8 million, especially if he is part of a platoon. So that it's an interesting question. I would certainly expect the Brewers to tender him a contract and to go through the process if they have to. I don't think they would just drop him, but I don't know if I'd say for certain 100% that I think he will be part of that equation. I just think it's really likely.
Okay, let's talk about shortstop, because that is an area where I think a lot of people, including the ESPNs, the Athletics, and all these other national type deals, where they're saying they have to find an offensive-minded shortstop in place of Joey Ortiz at shortstop. Now, I cannot see a world in which Joey Ortiz is just a bench player. So, if Joey Ortiz isn't starting at shortstop, I would assume Joey Ortiz is playing on another team through trade. How do you see shortstop playing out?
It's really hard because the free agent crop for shortstops, there's nothing there,
Correct.
And
yes.
And it's not a whole lot better for third base. If you're like me, you're thinking, okay, well, get a third baseman, move Bryce Terang to shortstop, move Caleb Durbin to second base.
Exactly. It's beautiful. Yes, you and I are together. Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah,
yes.
It sure makes sense. Problem is there aren't many third basemen either. Like if you want free agency, this is not your year. There's some starting pitchers, maybe a couple of outfielders. Brewers probably should be invested, looking around at both of those. But yeah, so then it becomes, well, what can you get in a trade? And do you have to? Is Freddie Peralta the guy you have to trade to get that shortstop, that offensive-minded shortstop? I got to tell you, I think they're just going to run it back. And I mean, not that they have to be married to that for the whole season. You know, I think they can give Joey Ortiz one more shot to sort of rediscover whatever he had offensively that first half of his first season. It was so rough last year. I mean, I just don't know. I have a hard time believing that that's going to materialize into something greater than what they had this past year. But I don't know if there's an obvious pathway other than a creative trade to really address that situation. I think it's going to be Joey to start with.
What about training Isaac Collins all off season to play third base?
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's played infield in his minor league career. I mean, I feel like that would have been explored already. You know, like they could have done that this season once they saw Isaac Collins was a pretty good offensive player. I think then the question, you know, what do you have with Isaac Collins? Like toward the end of the year, he was
the birth of his child.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would make that the actual.
That's where it started, man. Go back and look. That was the defining line. That's where it started. Yes,
I know it did. I mean, a lot of baseball players, you know, have to take paternity leave and have kids. Like, I don't think that's. I don't know. I don't look at it that way. But bottom line is, second half of the season, he just was not as good and not as reliable defensively either. So, you know, do you count on him? I mean, I think he's more of like a utility piece going forward. I don't think you necessarily think of him as your starting third baseman if he's an option. So I think they run this back and try to figure it out, you know, during the season if they have to.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I'm interested in seeing what happens. And like you said before, we also talk about Garrett Mitchell. Does Garrett Mitchell end up on the move going somewhere? But he's got no value at this point. So I don't see the point of even trading him. And then Quintana, they decide not to move forward with him, which, okay, fine. I understand that, but it still makes sense to bring him back on a one-year deal to help with the rest of this staff kind of going forward. He was an instrumental piece, I think, with Mizorowski. JR, I got to roll, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Take care. There he is, JR Radcliffe. Follow him on Twitter at JR Radcliffe. And of course, he was on the guest hotline brought to you by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Hey, Prize Picks, best way to cash in on your favorite teams this sports season. Bucks, Packers, whatever. Which players are going off? Which ones are overhyped? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds to turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. All we're doing is daily fantasy, like we talked about earlier in the show. Just pick more or less on at least two player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in as well. And now they offer stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on, say, Giannis on points, boards, blocks? Now you can pick on all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code SPARKY, SPARKY, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code SPARKY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Remember, if you're doing $5 lineups, you put in 5, they give you 50, and you can play 11 times, 11 lineups at $5 a piece. Why wouldn't you do it? Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for more details. Coming up in the next hour, 4 o'clock hour, Green and Gold update. Great piece by Tom Silverstein, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. We'll talk about there at 4 o'clock. 4:20, Charlie Sounds of the Day, brought to you by Prize Picks. And then our first segment with the Milwaukee Admirals. Admirals VP of Communications, Charlie Larson, joins us at the end of the show. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Sparky with you.